Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. This is our third episode. Um, now that you know a little bit about us, a little bit about our backgrounds, um, some introductions. Today we kind of just want to have some more casual conversation. Me and Daniel have only seen each other once since going to university, so we actually do have a lot to catch up on, and there's a lot that I don't know about his university experience so far, and there's a lot that he doesn't know about mine. And so yeah, today we just kind of want to catch up a little bit, and get to know what our first years at university was like. Um, so first things first, we're going to talk about our decisions and how we decided where we were going to go to college. Um, so I'm going to start and ask Daniel, how did you decide your school?
I think we've kind of talked about it in the first episode a little bit as well. Was in high school in 11th grade when I was about to. Obviously, it was really an unforeseeable circumstance, right? Where my dad, just kind of told me that I am going to university in Australia the next year, and
Yeah.
at that point, for me, it's really just like, do I want to graduate high school or not? Right.
Right.
So that's why I elected to graduate a year early. That way I can at least say I graduated high school. But
What do you mean? Was there a question whether or not you were going to graduate high school?
well, what my dad was saying was that I don't have to graduate high school. Was
Oh,
that
shoot.
right? There was an option to not graduate high school and just go straight over there.
How would that work?
So it's almost like they're gonna treat me as if I don't understand English,
Hmm.
like a regular international student that doesn't really speak English, where when you first go over there, you do a program called InSearch, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you learn English first and you learn some very preliminary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously that's available for domestic kids as well here in Australia, where it's like if you want to go to UTS, University of Technology of Sydney, and you don't have enough ATAR score, which is like their high school examination, kind of like the SAT and the ACT,
Mm-hmm.
where kids get stressed studying it, right? If they're not able to get a good enough score, they can do that, I guess, bridge program for maybe 6 months, 9 months, a year, depending on your skill levels, and then get into university that way. So yeah, so obviously I ended up doing that anyways for just,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, 6 months. It was really quick. So it
Mm-hmm.
just kind of flashed by, and obviously there wasn't any problem because my peers didn't all my peers didn't really speak English. So
Did you have to do that, or was it more
well,
optional?
so I had to do it because I didn't really have a SAT score or ACT score at that.
Oh.
I took it, but obviously because I was focusing on graduating, I never really thought of all those academic like pathways, right? Whereas that wasn't
Right.
even in my mind. So I don't think if giving them my ACT or SAT score will help. So I
You
kind of
took the
just did.
test. You took those tests, right?
Yeah, I took them, but they
And
weren't
does
really good. Yeah, they weren't
does
really good without
does
any
Australian
preparation.
colleges and universities accept those as entrance
Yeah, I believe
tests?
so. Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so because I have talked to someone in my one of my subjects. He's from Oregon, and he came to Australia for university just because. He just said he liked Australia. He doesn't he didn't like America.
What,
So yeah.
He was from America?
Yeah, he grew up in Oregon, in a small town in Oregon. He just decided to come to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's a,
No, I
that's a
get it.
whole
I
nother
get it.
story. That's a whole nother
Do this
story. But
sometimes.
yeah, so when I first came here, obviously the process was me doing like a program 6 months and then going into university.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And originally the goal was to do nursing. Because, again, that's what my parents selected. Right? They just
Why
thought,
nursing?
well, they just thought it would be easy for me to stay in Australia permanently in the future. And that it was, I guess, an easy thing for me to do. Because I feel like, obviously, it was somewhat reflective of my high school career where they do see, they're not completely blind. They see I'm not Stephen Hawking's, right? That I'm not Bill
Right.
Gates. So they were just like, well, what's the best pathway for Daniel to get a good career, good job, stable,
Right.
right, and be safe, right?
Right.
But before the like 6 months quick program finished, the university had some mix-ups, so I couldn't do nursing anymore because apparently this is what I've been told, that apparently for some reason they ran out of spaces in nursing, like in the nursing like major, so they can't include me in there. So they're like,
Oh, I think I remember you telling me about
yeah,
this.
yeah. And at that point, I was just,
You would
it,
have had to wait a whole nother year, right?
yeah. And then yeah, I was extremely mad, obviously. But then at the same time, for me, it was like, because obviously, actually, funny enough, at the end of the whole, I guess, 2 weeks process, and it ended up getting a nursing acceptance offers anyways. So that was interesting. But at that point, within that couple of weeks, for me, it was literally just about, okay, what do I want to do? Because since
Yeah.
that's not an option. So I believe one of the advisors, I'm obviously very grateful for that, but they talked to me. It's like, why don't you think, since your English is so good, because they looked at my like bridge program's grade,
Yeah.
they're all like HDs, which is stand for high distinction, which is I guess instead of using ABCD, we have high distinction, HD, distinction, D, and then credit is a C, and then pass is a P. So that's our grading system.
For for all
For
grades?
everything. Yep, for all grades. So we don't have ABCDs. Yep. And obviously HDs is like, I believe between 85 and up. And then obviously trickles that down, like D is 84 to 75, credit 75 to 65, and the 65 below pass, right? So yeah, so I just thought of, what do I want to do in the future? And I was able to chat with a law professor at UTS and, about what law kind of is all about. And, I was just thinking to myself at that point, like, even though I don't think I am the smartest guy, right?
Yeah.
I if I choose this path, I'll probably have a lot of difficulties, frankly, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't professionally trained since I was, 10, 11, 12 to do all those extracurriculum classes or participate in some of those stuff where people participate. Because
Right.
I mean, we didn't really have that at Spring Valley either.
No.
But for me, it was just, I felt like, I should challenge myself and do something and be someone I really want to be instead of just being safe and, and do something that even though I can do really well in, probably not going to enjoy as much.
Right.
So that was the point where I decided I was going to do law.
Did that make you more excited about doing university in general? Like,
Yeah,
what was the
absolutely.
feeling? What was your feeling when you knew you were probably going to be doing nursing? Were you excited for school, or not really?
No,
It's
I
just
wasn't. Not at all. Not at all. I just felt like it was something, it was almost like something I had to get through. But then I'm
yeah,
not really gonna, put my heart and soul into it because it is what it is. Just a career. I'm getting a nursing job.
yeah. Do you
Right.
think that's how a lot of international students feel about their degrees, or no?
Um, I'm obviously I can't speak for all the international students, but I do think there are some fatigue just about
Yeah,
getting a degree, right?
yeah.
Especially,
I just
yeah,
know that a lot of like international students at my university or whatever, at state schools and stuff in the United States, a lot of them are very practical degrees that are pretty solid and pretty guaranteed to make money. You don't see a lot of art history majors or like whatever. Um, so yeah, I guess that's my question.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Obviously, we're gonna get into later on in the episode, but it was really challenging. When I first started, and
yeah.
rightfully so, right? Because it is law
Hmm.
degree, and the requirement to get in is really high for domestic students.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a very language English heavy degree.
Right,
You know,
right, right,
so I'm sure that was kind of intimidating. You know.
right. Yeah. What about you, man? Well, how did you know? Because I know this, throughout I guess our whole high school is we all thought you were gonna go to University of Dayton for obvious reasons, right? Which you
Yeah.
can get into, but how did DePaul happen? Is my question for you.
Yeah. So my dad is a um professor at University of Dayton, which is in Dayton, Ohio. And because of that, um he's been there for a while, and so growing up, it was basically, you know, seemed like my future was laid out for me, at least in the short term, because it was always assumed, and my parents would always reinforce that, when you're at UD, and when you go to UD, blah blah blah. So when I'm in eighth grade or whatever, I'm just like, I'm not really thinking about college or anything. And I'm like, well, that's fine, free college, or heavily discounted college. Sounds like a good deal. And then I think it was around like maybe junior, senior year when uh the reality of the next 4 years started to sink in, that that I didn't really have a choice, I guess. Um and it sounds like a pretty privileged thing to say, because most people don't get the opportunity for free college. um so I don't take that lightly. um but I did have a little bit of bitterness, just with the fact that I felt like I didn't really get to choose, um, and that you know my parents weren't really, you know they weren't encouraging me at all to explore other options. It was like, if even to explore other options would be kind of, um, I don't know the word, disappointing to them, or just unrealistic, irrational. Um, and so yeah, that reality started to set in, and I was like, well, I really kind of want to see what else is out there, what else is possible. I've lived in Dayton, Ohio my entire life. um you know, is there anything else for me, and so I in like I said, Chicago is not even that far from Dayton. It's probably 5 hours to drive, even shorter to fly. um but I've visited Chicago a few times, just on trips or vacations or whatever, a decent amount of times. Maybe I have some family that lives here. Probably at least 10 times I've been to Chicago, before moving here. But I really something about this city I really loved. Um, yeah, it has a very attractive feeling to me. Even since I was a little kid, I just remember really wanting to move here one day. Um, and so I started doing research of schools here, and I found a few schools that I applied to. I think the only school I applied to in Chicago was the one I'm at, DePaul University. Um, and and I think I applied very, very late, and I actually didn't even think I thought I was going into a totally different major. I don't even remember when you're freaking 18 and they tell
Yeah.
and counselors, and I feel for people who are doing it right now. And when counselors are telling you to make decisions, it's really high pressure, and I'm sure you relate. It's an extremely high pressure, um just difficult decision to choose, first of all, where you're going to go, and second of all, what your major is going to be. Which you can play around and change your major, but with some majors, it helps to start early. So there is that pressure to figure out what you want to do as early as possible. And when you're 18, you don't know. No, I mean, if you know, you're lucky. If you know, consider yourself lucky, because I sure as hell didn't. And having to make a decision like that, is just really was pretty intense. And so what I wanted to do before, I wanted to do industrial design, um kind of just because I liked, like 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 furniture design. I liked
Yeah.
IKEA. I liked, like, that kind of thing. Um and but I soon realized, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I am not an artist like that. I'm not like, so I actually applied to a bunch of industrial design schools, and I got into a lot of them, surprisingly. Um and then I got a acceptance letter from DePaul very late, because I applied very late, as kind of like a last ditch effort to not go to UD, and not stay in Ohio. And uh and I got accepted, and I got a decent scholarship package, that actually made it reasonable and made it possible to convince my parents that I'm out of here. Um, so I'm actually really grateful for how that worked out. And um and so I remember being really, um just really unsettled by, like, and just really, like, you know worked up about the decision, and not knowing what to do, because I knew it was going to cost me a hell of a lot more money than going to UD would, out of my pocket. And I'd been working, since I was 14, saving up, so I had a decent amount of money in the bank, that could at least get me through 1-2 years. And so I knew I'd have to keep working. And so I was actually working at IKEA, strangely enough, but at the time. And I remember really just looking to just the people around me for advice on what to do. And so I remember like asking some of my coworkers that I just needed someone to tell me that I was doing the right thing, or that I should do this, that I should move. And so I remember talking to some of my coworkers at IKEA, um, and just asking them, like some older coworkers who, you know, I think perhaps wish they had made decisions when they were younger, so that they'd branch out and, maybe perhaps be in a different place than they are. And
Right.
no diss to IKEA workers. I think it's a
Yeah.
totally fine place to work. But I asked some of the older coworkers that I had, like, should I do this? And most of them said, yeah, just, go for it. You're an adult now. And it was interesting for them to tell me, you're an adult now, you get to make those decisions. And if you want your parents to respect your decisions, you need to make those decisions like an adult. You can't just you can't ask for permission to leave. You have to go. You have to say, this is what I'm doing and this is what I want, and you have to, be confident in that. And I think hearing that from a third party, someone that I wasn't as close to, was pretty eye-opening for me, and was definitely pushed me over the edge to say, all right, this is what I'm doing. And I remember like sending because I knew my parents knew that I was really considering it and everything. And I remember saying, like, I sister texted me and she was like, did you make your decision yet? Because like decision day, there's like I forget what day it is, but there's like a set date that most people make decisions. And and I remember my sister texted me and said, well, what are you doing? And I sent her a picture of Chicago skyline. I said, I'm going to Chicago. And so, yeah, it felt good. It felt really good.
Yeah. I mean, I think not only, I think you were right saying about convincing them, your
Mm-hmm.
parents, but I think part of convincing is also, I think, just expanding on what your IKEA coworker kind of told you. It's more like you need a plan, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you need to be convincible, you need to be persuasive.
Right.
And how you do that is not by saying, hey, I just really don't like Dayton. I just want to get out of here. Right.
Yeah.
It's about saying, hey, mom, dad, whatever. It's about saying, hey, this is where I'm going and here's what I'm going to do. And this is how
Right.
I'm going to make a career for myself.
Exactly.
And here's how this will be solved. That will be solved. It's almost like a checklist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you go into something, you can never just go in there and be like, oh, we'll see. Right.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you, you know, obviously a balance of that daringness, of that type of, I guess, mentality is important. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying we don't need to think about that at all, but at the same time, for me, it's also about planning everything out and
Mm-hmm.
knowing the problems that you might encounter before it happens, and
Right.
be proactive.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you said that, because that is kind of what I had to do, especially with the money thing. Because we all knew that I didn't have enough to pay for all 4 years. And so I kind of laid out the money, the finances, and said, I'm going to work summers, I'm going to work winter breaks, and this is how I'm going to make the money, and this is how I'm going to pay for it. And I think it gave my parents a little bit more security, that to see that. And also, I wasn't really, even at the time, I wasn't even really excited for for college, for and which I've always kind of liked school and academics. I've always, because I'm decent at it. And so I've always kind of considered that a part of my identity. And the fact that I wasn't even excited at all was a bit concerning to me. Um, and I needed a reason to get excited about school, and staying at UD wasn't doing it for me. And because I knew it wouldn't be worth my time, and it wouldn't be worth, the effort if I wasn't excited about it. And and that's how I kind of decided on my major too, because I applied. DePaul doesn't offer industrial design, which was lucky because I was like, okay, so what's my net? What's my I forced me to choose my second pick because it's a liberal arts school, and so I chose political science because I've always been into politics. I've always been into kind of history and writing and all that kind of stuff. And then it was like, oh, and then when I got my acceptance letter, I'm like, oh, I'm a dumbass. This is what this is what I like. Like this is what I do. Why the hell am I trying to be an artist? And so it just knocked sense into me, and to me everything just kind of went as it was supposed to. And yeah, so that's kind of how I made my decision. That's why I'm here. I can't hear you at the moment.
Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, so now that we kind of got an understanding of how we got to where we are, DePaul University, University of Technology of Sydney. Let's kind of talk about now the first semester and kind of, I guess, that testing period almost, right? Where we had to kind of get used to everything, right?
Yeah.
We had to get used to a lot of different things because I mean we all lived at home, we all hung out every day, just with the same group of people.
Yeah.
Now we're in a institution with a lot more people, right?
Yeah.
And not 300 people K to 12. I guess let's not talk about some of our experiences, right?
Yeah.
In the first semester per se, in the first semester.
Yeah, for me, I kind of it was like it really is it really kind of was like, all right, that kind of renewal, reinvention. You're trying to reinvent yourself, kind of. You're trying to, like, I kind of took it as like an opportunity just to, like, even though I I'm like an introverted person, I don't really like big social gatherings, parties. It's not really my thing. I was like, I'm just gonna go and experience it for the sake of experiencing it, and it was like everything was kind of like an experiment, you know, and and that was kind of how I even forced myself into the situations. Because if I take going to parties too seriously, you know, I do not enjoy it. It was almost like I had to remove myself and, like, look at myself from like a third person perspective, and almost treat it as like, I don't even know, but like an experiment, like a movie, like uh I don't know how to better explain it, um but yeah, so that was kind of how I got through that initial shock of being in a totally new place. Um, but how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think funny enough, I would never, thought that as we I guess speak about this, right? That you as a more introverted person will talk about going to parties, right? Versus me, what I'm going to talk about now is just strictly in relation to studying and academics, right? Who'd ever
Yeah.
thought in high school we'd just say, wait a minute now, Daniel will not talk about will not talk about parties, but Mitchell's going to talk about parties,
Yeah.
right?
That's interesting.
Because I remember in high school, it's always me getting you to go somewhere, do something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I'd rather stay home and study.
Yes, yes. And now how things have changed. But yeah, I guess similar to you, I just want to briefly mention the social aspect of it. Whereas
Hmm.
I, I, I I didn't know anyone, you know. Not only I was in a different place, I was in a totally different country.
Yeah.
So I'm not as relatable to other people, right? So
Hmm.
I feel like throughout the first semester or even the first year, I think conversely from you, me as a little bit more outgoing person, almost I think decide to conduct myself in a fashion that's not true to myself.
Hmm.
Whereas I've decided to try and make so many friends,
Hmm.
right? And talk to everyone, understand everyone. But then I forgot about, who I am as a person. And
Hmm.
because I mean, I think based on my experience, it's it is like I can relate to a lot of people, which I think is one of my advantages. But at the same time, not all of those experiences are like true as part of who I am.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like I did too much initially. But more importantly, shifting to the academic side, it was just a massive shock. Because to give you all a little bit of context, in the United States, in high school, we kind of we party and like we don't really care about everything as much, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, and you obviously can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you guys first get into university, you guys take a lot of preliminary subjects where everyone takes that subjects, English, math, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Right.
like a liberal arts, liberal studies kind of core. A lot of schools just have
Yeah.
like a core kind of set of very general
Yeah.
courses from all topics, kind of like high
Yeah.
school,
Yeah. We
just a
don't
little
have
more
that
in
at
depth.
all. We don't have that at all. When I first started, it was 3 subjects a week. It was criminal law, ethics, and foundation of law. That's it.
It's a lot of
So
law.
yeah, so it was literally just law every single day. There's
Yeah.
no because kids that are quote unquote smart or gotten a good score from their tests in high school, you know, they all been preparing for law school for like 5-6 years, right? Like they
Yeah.
made other decisions early where their parents are both solicitors, you know, they're all big time people, and that's what they're
Right.
gonna do. Whereas when I first got in, I just it was just too much for me. I think I remember doing this criminal laws assignment in my first year.
Hmm.
It I it was the worst experience of my life, man. Because it, we get less deadlines, so we get less things
Yeah.
that's due, but then there are massive chunks of our grade,
Yeah.
right? So you know, I believe it was like maybe the day it was due, or I think I might have even turned it in a little bit late.
Hmm.
But I was just scrambling for citations because law school is not just, hey, look, I have this great argument, check me out.
Yeah.
It's apply the law, you know, so identify the issue, you know, look at the law on this issue, right? And then
Hmm.
you rationalize it and
Hmm.
how, in your argument of how both things relate and how this case should be viewed or should be, decided based on what we've seen.
Hmm.
So it's extremely structured. And I didn't have professional training like that, right?
Yeah.
In high school, for our English class, we didn't have academic writing. We didn't have, you know, we didn't think about having to write therefore, like, moreover, furthermore in our essays,
Right.
right? We can
Yeah.
use, yeah, sometimes we're even allowed to use I, right?
Yeah.
I think, like,
I
that's all
believe.
out of the, yeah, that's all out of, like, I can't, I can't say, you know, because we also have to footnote everything. It's
Hmm.
very strict on the citation aspect. It's like, I can't write on the footnote, hey, teacher, it occurred to me in a dream. I have to have some information to back it up, man. So, so it's like, it was just really difficult, but yeah,
Yeah.
still alive.
So was there any like really low points that you had? Did you ever consider not doing law, or were you pretty determined to stick it out?
Um, I, I guess no. I was determined to stick it out, but then I think it didn't hit me until a few times where I got some really bad grades. Right.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I remember I got this on this quiz I did for foundational law. I got maybe 1 or 2 out of 10.
Ouch.
Yeah, and that I had that on my door for like 2 years. I had the
Why?
score. I had the paper stick to my door, so I can remember that.
Oh, why would you do that to
Yeah,
yourself?
I just, man, it was like it came in 2 stages. So the first stage was I was shocked, but I didn't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
Whereas the second stage, I kind of had realized what I can do to make it a little better, right?
Mm.
And that's kind of where things, got better eventually. So
How did you make it better?
I think it was just uh, like I think in high school we don't really think about the amount of work we put in, like
Mm-hmm.
how much studying we do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in university, it's you have to study a lot, one, but at the same time you also have to focus like on it every single second, right?
Right.
You have to truly understand the material because there's not that much material.
Mm-hmm.
And difference between a HD assignment versus a C assignment, it's maybe it's not even about the law. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
about how your arguments put, how your writing was, you
Mm-hmm.
know and all this like citation, right? You know a good introduction,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or so yeah. It was just I slowly gotten a hang of it, and now starting my third year now, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of doing a little bit of communication subjects, public relations,
Yeah.
because I picked it up this year, so I don't only just know law, so I can know more than just law.
That's
But
cool.
but I just was like, wow, if I was first introduced to public relation before I did law, that would help. you know, like
Mm.
that I guess area of academics or majors, it's just not comparable to studying law, especially when you don't know any better, right? When you just
Mm-hmm.
came into university, when you know nothing. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you academic wise? Because I mean, I think just distinct, you know, me, you from me. You're a much better student than me, right? In high school. So what was it like for you?
Um. I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest. There was some hard. There's some hard classes and stuff, but it wasn't too much harder than what I was used to in
Yeah.
high school. Just kind of because I was kind of a perfectionist in high school. I was kind of out of fear. I was really afraid of getting bad grades in high school because for whatever reason, I thought that if I got less than an A in high school, that like was taking, like I said, was taking away like part of my identity, which in retrospect, I think wasn't very healthy or good because, um, you know, hang on, my computer's screwing up. All right. But in retrospect, yeah, I don't think caring that much about my grades in high school even really mattered because I definitely didn't need to get as high of a GPA as I got in high school to get into DePaul. Um, and might have helped my with my scholarships, so I don't regret it. But I think it kind of my perfectionism in high school definitely took away from other opportunities to expand kind of other areas of my life, that I kind of had to play catch up once I got to college, especially socially. And I'm still playing catch up.
Yeah. We
um,
can't have everything, all the time. So
right, yeah. So academic wise, yeah, first couple quarters weren't too bad. I put work in, but I enjoyed the material. I was interested, and they were interesting courses. And that's maybe the difference between your first quarter, or your first semester and my first semester, was that I got classes like my very first class was called Death in the City, and it was a whole class about it was a philosophy class about death. And we would when we'd go on field trips around Chicago to like Buddhist temples, to Jewish synagogues, cemeteries, and just philosophize about death. And it was just like really cool stuff. It almost just felt fun. And and then I was taking some other just more political courses that I was into about just the American political system. And so yeah, it was a step above high school in terms of difficulty, but I did fine. And it wasn't actually not until recently has it actually started to get harder. Um, and maybe that's kind of a trend with in kind of a American university is your first year is kind of a tester, keep you in the door. And then after that things do start to pick up a little bit because you're more secure in your what you're studying. um and that's when the people around you, it really was my peers, seeing my peers in my first year versus second year in their seriousness about academics affected me quite a bit. Because first year, it seemed like everybody didn't really care. They were just trying to pass, and they were just more worried about going to parties, um, just messing around and having a good time, which is fair. But I was always more worried about academics. And so I was conflicted in my head. I'm like, what should I be worrying about? Like, and this might just be a lesson to not let people affect you too much. But peer pressure is real. I didn't learn that
yeah,
until college, man. I mean, peer pressure is really, really real. And, being at a small Christian school kind of uh, before that definitely kind of shielded me from some of that later on that I would encounter. Um, and so now seeing some of my peers that are much more serious about their academics, it pushes me to care more because I'm like, oh, like
right,
reminds me this is kind of a competition, you
right,
know.
right.
Like they're my peers, but we're
Yeah,
fighting for the same jobs, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
No, it's like that. I think for me, just comparing, contrasting. in law
Yeah.
school. Like that's the
Yeah.
first day where people get your Facebook not because they're your friends, right? It's that it's that couple of days before the assignments due. Hey, what did you do for
Hey.
argument number two?
Yeah.
Yeah, was was John the Builder was in breach of contract here, or was it
Yeah.
or was there negligence, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, the relationship. I think here I'm lucky that most of all my friends are extremely focused on the studying,
Yeah.
at least the ones I talk to. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, it's like we don't really have that social aspect of university as
Mm-hmm.
much, where people
Yeah.
don't really go. It's not seen as a place to socialize as much. Obviously, people do talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like America where there's that camaraderie almost. Whereas
Yeah.
here, everyone's just we're studying. Let's do this extracurriculum. Let's do that curriculum, right?
Yeah.
To see how do we, get into this internship, that internship. That's
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of our conversation built on is you have to think about getting an internship because everyone else have one.
Yeah.
You have to have a law job right now because everyone else have one,
Right.
right?
It's like, yeah, you feel like if you don't, then you're
Yeah,
failing.
it's like if you say it's like if you don't wear if you go to a 6 p.m. class and you don't wear a suit because you didn't come back from work all day as a paralegal or whatever, you're maybe
Yeah.
less, right? If you just wear a hoodie and some sweats, you're
Yeah.
less, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's almost like what it is here in Australia. But
Yeah. Do you think,
yeah,
like, I don't know, we could kind of talk about that in terms of like, just do you think generally that do you think it's a law thing that there's kind of a superficial personality associated with, or is it is it deeper than that, or is it not as deep as that?
well, I think it would probably, like from my limited knowledge of being in here for a couple of years, but it would just in high school everyone's more focused. It's kind of like China, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
where you know this,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is more focused on their studying and have a lot more things to do in high school studying wise, right?
Right.
Whereas here in Australia, maybe in year 10, 11, 12, you already branched out on what you're gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the cream have already rise to the
Yeah.
top
Yeah.
already. So you're only taking
The
that
herd has
top
been
percent,
thinned.
right? And then
Yeah.
you're taking that high percentage of people that got that wonderful, test score,
Yeah.
whom already had legal training or whatever in high school, right? You're putting them into, you know, this group where everyone else is the same,
Right.
right? That's why Australia can get so specific so early. It's
Mm-hmm.
because everyone have mostly made up their mind on what they're doing. Unlike, I guess, us back in the States, where
Yeah.
we saw we you know don't know what to do is fine. Whereas there, everyone's
Right.
like, yeah,
Because counselors will tell you too. They'll
yeah,
say like in the States they'll be like, most people switch their majors up to two or three
yeah,
times.
yeah,
It's like they're
yeah,
like just they just want you to get in the door. They just want you to
yeah,
go to college,
right,
and explore that. And actually there is some truth to it. And I definitely think the way the way it's done in the US is good. I mean, I'm gonna speak poetically here, but a little better for the soul.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
because I got to go in and I chose political science vaguely. I didn't really even exactly know what political science was until I got to university. I just knew it had to do with politics. Um, and then it also had to do with a little bit more of the humanities and some more literature and stuff like that. And and that and that got me to take other classes, and I actually got to take um, I actually had to take introduction to philosophy, which was the first time that I'd obviously like, I mean, you know, everybody knows a little bit of, you know, some philosophers or a little bit of philosophy, but that was the first time I actually sat down and read some fundamental philosophical texts. And I through that one class, I was like, I also want to study this. And so now I'm doing two majors. Now I'm also doing philosophy as a major, which is pretty brutal. The introduction. If you're taking an intro philosophy course, it gets harder if you continue with it. And actually, a lot of people in the States who do philosophy go on to law school because it is a lot of rhetoric,
Right.
writing, just
Right.
very formulaic, almost mathematic writing.
Right.
Um, that you know, so there's a lot of transferable stuff
Yeah.
between philosophy
For
and
sure.
law.
For sure.
Um, but I love philosophy. It's just that I don't exactly know, you know, in terms of philosophy itself, what the future holds for that. The skills though are really good and that you learn, you know, and are applicable to really anything. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure, man. I mean, I guess obviously there are a lot of differences, but obviously it's still similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that different per se if we
Mm-hmm.
compare it to, other countries or other areas. Whereas I think if you and me both switched universities, we would probably be like used to it pretty fast. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do have to mention now that we brought it up, it's China is often a current reoccurring theme in our show.
Yeah.
So
It's an
so
interesting
well,
place.
yeah, maybe we can. Obviously, I have a really good friend in China, right? And he goes to university in China, similar to kind of the Australian domestic kids pathway. You have to take a really extraneous test,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to determine what type of university you go to, whether it's level 1, tier 2, you know maybe something
Mm-hmm.
like a community college down below. So
Yeah.
it's actually pretty interesting to see my cousin also do that um, now, right? That's what they've
Mm-hmm.
been going through now. So let's I guess this is a cafeteria in China, right? In a tier 1 university. Can you see, Mitchell?
It's not showing up. It just says your name and says has started screen sharing, but
Right. Let me just give it a go. Another go. Oh, the
now I can see.
technologies have not been kind to us today. But this is I guess Chinese university, tier 1 university, right? And from my knowledge, it's a relatively new campus as well.
So
I
what am I
mean,
looking
this
at? What am I looking at right now?
this is a cafeteria.
This is the cafeteria.
But right off the bat, it looks nothing like our cafeteria, or
It's
regardless of
pretty
where we go.
it's pretty tight. It's pretty compact there.
Yeah,
That's
everyone's in
not
like a little block,
that's
right?
not 6 feet apart.
Yeah, that's
It's
not
not
6 feet
not
apart. But
COVID
then,
regulation.
at the same time, they put the board up so that people
Oh.
don't spit into each other, I guess. Which is weird to me. It's like if you guys are that close together, what do you think is gonna happen?
They need to have little like phone holders on
Yeah,
those things.
yeah. I mean, I think right off the bat, what we can identify here is there's a lot more people than
There's a lot of people.
what we've encountered. Because I feel like even though both of our university are probably really crowded, it's not this crowded, right?
Yeah. The
Because you
cafeteria
see
in my
kind of
school is very much
yeah,
And I'm in a big city, and it's
Yeah.
a lot more spread out than that.
Yeah. Same as me as well, right?
Yeah.
Our university is right next to the central station.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems like every Commonwealth country have a central station, but yeah, we have one too.
Yeah.
In Sydney, and there's a lot of people everywhere, right? It's like a downtown area, pretty much.
Yeah. That's
But yeah,
crazy.
how they're set up right now, it's pretty
It
insane.
looks
What
like a
about?
high school.
Yeah, for sure. This, um, it shook me a little bit.
So what's this?
This is according to my friend, this is his dorm room.
I see a lot of beds.
This is his dorm room. How many
Yeah.
people do you think fits in there? Just here in this room. Doesn't
Are there
look big.
people
Doesn't.
are there people on top too?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, God, yeah, that's why there's a freaking ladder. Jesus. It's just a hallway, man.
There's 8 people in there.
8.
Yeah.
Wow. Do they even
And
have closet space? Or is it just hung up?
from what we've seen, it's very limited.
It's just, yeah,
From,
it is literally a
this picture,
hallway.
just from this picture, right?
Can you
And
go through the door at the other end? I'm assuming. Is that like a bathroom or something? Or they probably
so from
share it.
what's worse about this thing is, I'm pretty sure the bathroom is not just for the 8 people. Like you literally,
Yeah.
wherever that door leads to is not a bathroom. Rather, the bathroom will probably be down the hallway, like
Right.
behind this photo somewhere.
Right.
And
Right.
I know for a fact it takes more than 8 people in that bathroom. So
Yeah.
more than 8 people shares that one. It's pretty scary,
Wow.
in my opinion.
It's
I don't know
just
if you're.
it's tight.
Yeah. I mean, funny enough, he told me the other day. I was like, because I was shocked when I first saw the photo on WeChat when he sent it to me. I was like, like,
Is this pretty standard for most Chinese
yeah,
universities?
it's like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Whereas I think in America, obviously, first year living in the dorm is somewhat just like pretty acceptable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas,
I had
right,
3 people in my
right,
room, and it was a pretty small room, that.
it's
But
kind of like
first year,
yeah,
it's kind of initiation. It's expected.
yeah, it's that almost boarding school type of feeling, right?
Yeah, it's how you meet people. It's how you meet,
Right,
make friends
right,
and stuff. So,
right. Interesting
but
enough,
most people
Australia,
move into a
yeah,
bigger place later.
right, right, and yeah, Australia, we don't really have that, so everyone just go wherever, right? So
And
it's
what
even
year
harder
is
to,
your friend?
huh?
What year is your friend?
Oh, they can be all over the place. If we get an apartment together, who knows,
No,
right?
no, in China.
Oh, my friend in China, he is in his 2nd year, so same year as you.
Or going into his third?
Yeah,
Because I'm going in my third.
yeah, pretty much, yes. Yeah, so you all start school around at the same time. But what's funny is yeah, he told me he's not even living there at the moment. Like he's not like sleeping there.
Hmm.
I was like, why? Because of COVID? He's just like, nah, it's just there's 8 people in there. I have to go to the bathroom outside. It's like too much.
I'm surprised those other guys don't have curtains. I would definitely
Yeah,
get a curtain.
right. That's I don't know. If that was my living situation, I would have been very concerned.
uh, I would hate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would hate it.
I think that's also
But maybe if that was the
yeah.
situation, I'd get used to it, and it wouldn't be that
Yeah.
bad. I don't know.
Also probably it's probably a cultural thing as well where both Australia and America, it's more individualism, right?
Yeah.
It's more I do what I want, give me some space, I
Hmm.
don't want to talk to anyone. let me get a big yard, right? Versus in China, it's more of that collective feel to it. Whereas there's really, you can't hide away from nobody, right? Growing up,
Yeah.
you have 4 or 5 people living in an apartment, right? With your grandparents, parents, right? 3 generations. You can't get away from people.
Right.
All right. That's not an option. So I think we can probably see that through these photos as well.
Was eye opening.
Yeah. I guess we don't have it that bad, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think the academics is in China? Is it tough?
Um, I know similarly, it's very similar to the system in America, I'd say,
In
where it's
America?
yeah, it's not very generalized as of yet. Like people do get into just like more normal subjects, even PE sometimes,
Hmm.
right? Even gym
Interesting.
class. So it got the American type of feel,
Hmm.
but I know the work amount is a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think from my like limited conversation with my friend, it's almost, I would allude to our university education maybe 10, 15 years ago, where they're not as innovative as of yet, right? Whereas they're still relying heavily on lectures, right? Whereas tutorials is not really a thing, right?
What's a tutorial?
It's like it's basically like a small class of 30 people or 20 some people, right?
Oh,
So
as
rather
opposed to
than
like a massive lecture with like
yeah,
100 people
yeah,
or
basically.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I go to my school's kind of more of a liberal arts school, so we don't
Yeah.
even have lectures with more than like 40 people.
Right. Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So I
Most
feel like
state
that
schools do, though. That's
yeah,
just normal.
I'm sure that it's the same way in China as well, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, I guess it just it's interesting how, even though like their education is still a little more just generic per se, right? Because I do know they have like massive lectures, like probably what we used to have, right?
Hmm.
And then now it's just less and less, especially with COVID. Now everyone just online. Lectures are all online, right?
Yeah.
Either via Zoom or just pre-recorded, right? So like you don't need to go, right?
It's fast food education, man.
Yeah, like I go to university. We have class in real life. We do because we pretty much have no cases. We maybe have
I have
a
one
couple.
class in person right now.
Right.
We all have to wear masks and stuff, and it's all spaced
Yeah.
out
So
and
yeah,
people in there.
yeah, yeah. We
But the
we're
rest is
spaced
online.
out. Yeah, but we don't have to obviously wear a mask. We just have to check in, scan the code, check in,
Hmm.
right? But it's just like it. I feel like once this COVID hit, it's almost like the '08 financial crisis. It's like it changed so much regulation and stuff, right? It's like I was just listening to a podcast yesterday about how after the crisis, like getting a mortgage for the house or just buying a house in the States is much more difficult than compared to before. It's just
Yeah, I
because
don't know
of
anything
how,
about that, man. I
yeah,
don't
because
even
of
want
that.
to. I don't
Yeah,
want to worry about it yet.
yeah. So,
We're all
yeah,
probably
man.
screwed in the next 10 years.
Yeah. Good talk,
But
man.
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. Maybe we should just wrap it up here. Eh? We've been on for a
Yeah.
while now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of gives a good overview of some of the differences between university and US versus Australia and a little bit of China. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Just, I mean, I guess, yeah, it just kind of we're not really here to educate anyone per se. We're just here to share our experience and what we got out of it. And maybe whoever's listening, your experience is probably different from us, right? So it's something that we can, I guess, reflect on. But yeah, no, thanks for watching, everyone, and we're probably gonna sign off here. Okay.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, Matt.